Anyway,
No. Well, where are your running buddies there? Where's your main man, Mike?
Well, see, Mike is on the road. He's going to take care of some
Okay.
family stuff, so he had to
Okay.
hit the road there. So that's his story, anyways.
You're flying solo?
Well, Brian is missing in action, so we're not sure where he is, but
Okay.
ROL, Rollins getting another pop
So
here.
what you're saying is that you're hoping I
46.95 the
help to
high
carry
on
you
Rollins,
today.
now at 44.83.
Yes.
Romeo Oscar Lima, ROL.
it's exactly what I'm hoping you can carry this broadcast, because just on my own, goodness knows what'll happen.
Right.
Oh, what's going on? Your cameras? Oh, no, we're back. Okay.
There we go.
We're all good. Let's just check. Friends on YouTube, all looks good. Welcome to everybody out there on YouTube. And, on YouTube, my good buddy Eric is asking me if I'm short Microsoft yet. I hate to tell you, Eric, I am. I have been short Microsoft for a little over an hour or so now. When did I get it? Yeah, just about an hour. And I got an excellent entry on it. And yes, I've been riding this wave all the way down. So that was not any purposeful end of day trade. It's just that was the opportunity that I felt was out there. So it's working. All right. So yes, Microsoft will stop me out if it goes above 183.35. That's where I set my stop out. My original entry was 183.77. And Dr. Katz. It's funny. Andrew was sharing do I have it here? A picture that I gotta find it here, that came across his desk, where none of us can explain what's going on in the markets. So
Yeah.
and it sort of sums up, like, if you sort of look at all the things that are happening, it seems
Yep.
it seems
Like that should not happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like the markets, you figure, should be, not doing so well, but here we are, and we're going up generally. Now, that being said, the markets have taken a downturn this afternoon, but we have to keep in mind the relative downturn. We're talking about 0.5%, overall
Right.
here. So it's just I don't know what to expect. I mean, the airline stocks, we were looking at this today because it was all on everybody's radar here. American Airlines up 50%. 50%. That just seems incredible. But
Yeah.
there you have it. So, anyways, I don't, tough to know how to feel. Should I feel happy or upset or depressed?
Well, this is, on the Monday pre-market show, a couple of Mindfulness Monday, one of the main points that I made leading into the week was really about the topic of adaptability. And
Right.
that may be a trader's most essential skill in the COVID-19 world. And being able to be creative and flexible in the face of, these situations is going to be very important from a trading perspective, because sometimes things don't make logical or rational sense. And your mind and abilities need to be able to be nimble to adjust to what is before you. And although the future is never certain, there's probably been never a greater sense of uncertainty than everybody is facing now.
Well, and it's one thing I had to learn in my corporate career, and perhaps that in combination with being a parent, that even if you think you're the most flexible and adaptable person in the world, there are elements of change that you don't like. Like nobody likes change all the time, right? So
change is one of the things that we could guarantee, but we also, as human beings, like stability, the comfort of stability, even though intellectually we know that things change. So it is a delicate balance. You're right. Some people are more adaptable to that, and some people are more set in their ways. But yes, I agree with you. There are things such as parenting or being in relationships that absolutely necessitate change if one is going to kind of function effectively in those settings.
Yeah, so I think ultimately we all have a different level of comfort with change, and understanding where that is for you is important, because it helps you understand how you can manage yourself to adapt to that change, or know how you're going to have to deal with it. And you may have to deal with it differently than, or likely will have to deal with it differently than the next person. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's really just, it's personal to you.
Yeah, and that also can vary within a different situation. So, for instance, Peter, somebody might be very flexible. Oh, they don't care if they have to move 20 times. They may be fine with that. But financially, they maybe don't respond very well to kind of change with their own personal finances. There are other parts of their lives that they might feel very flexible, or vice versa. So I think there are general styles of people being more adaptable and kind of managing change more effectively. But we all have areas where it comes easier to us and areas where we're a little more sensitive and it's more difficult. So part of that is kind of not trying to characterize yourself in a particular way, but understanding the areas that are a little more difficult and trying to make the necessary adaptations that one needs to make, especially during these kind of difficult times.
Indeed. And speaking of change, we have Brian with us. Not sure how that's speaking of change, but it's a change because now Brian's with us.
It's a change. Good now.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Dr. Katz. So just listening to the wisdom and Dr. Katz, and just looking at the markets here. We're sold off, and now we're coming back.
Yes, some crazy things going on out there today, Brian, for sure. Dr. Katz, we got a couple of good questions from members in the room here that are worth taking a look at.
Okay.
Start with the one from Mark
Sure.
IA, if you see his question there. Maybe I'll read it out because people on YouTube wouldn't see that. He says, I missed a trade. When I miss a trade and either get out early or get stopped out before the move, I then tend to overtrade the stock. It's not till I review at the end of the day that I realize basically I was revenge trading. Any tips or mental tricks not to do this in the moment?
Okay, so generally when a trade goes against you, you'll probably, as you become more aware of it, you'll notice kind of an emotional kind of shift. And again, if it goes against you, then you're going to probably have a reaction kind of upset or frustration or anger. And I think the key is to be aware of that and then make sure that you reset your emotions to get back on kind of a more even keel state. I know we've talked in the past about sometimes needing to step away from the screen for a bit, maybe doing some little deep breathing, short relaxation exercises to get your mind and body back to kind of even keel so that you don't continue to trade on emotion. What happens when we get upset or angry or disappointed and our goals are not met is that we then tend to respond emotionally and not more rationally or kind of process oriented in a disciplined way. So so the warning signal should go out for you when that kind of trade goes against you, that you know for yourself that you tend to kind of have a strong emotional response, and it may be important to just take a brief break, get yourself calm, back to neutral, and then come back at the trade with fresh eyes to see if it's still a viable trade in its new place.
Fair enough. Now, No Whammies was asking a simpler question to ask, maybe tougher to answer. Any words of wisdom on how to prevent overtrading in general?
Well, I think one needs to, there are a lot of triggers for overtrading. So I think you need to know which one, or if there are several, that's important to know. So overtrading can come with loss and disappointment. So traders then all of a sudden start focusing on wanting to make back the money. And so overtrading can come back kind of more in that anger, revenge mode to get back. Overtrading can come when actually things are going quite well, and then traders get a little too full of themselves, whether consciously or unconsciously, becoming a little overconfident and kind of feeling like any trade they throw against the wall is going to stick. So you need to be mindful when you have a good streak, that you stay with the process and discipline that got you there, and don't just start over trading because you kind of feel like the wind is at your back. And another time that over trading happens is very often when there are not that many opportunities that traders see, and you get impatient with sitting around and waiting. Patience is I talk about patient aggressiveness. Being patiently aggressive is one of the key positive characteristics for high performing traders, being willing to sit and sit and sit. And then when they see an opportunity to really get in. But boredom can be one of the triggers. People are like bored. And so instead of looking at trades and having a certain conviction level or setup in order to get into a trade, people kind of then convince themselves that they'll take the best of the trades available that they see, even though the quality of the trades may not be very high. So boredom can be another one, and impatience leading to that. So it's really important as you find yourself over trading this is where journaling and writing things down are important, because I think at the end of the day, you can identify what are the triggers for you personally that leads to over trading. And then once you start having some insight in terms of the scenarios that could lead to over trading, it then gets you on the path to being able to make some changes and increase the awareness to prevent some of that from happening in the future. And let me just say one thing. The reason that this is particularly important is one of the first steps to help traders become better is really the absence of the negative. If you could stop trading things, it kind of not making the trades that you shouldn't make, as opposed to kind of making more on the trades that you want to make. The absence of the negative, getting out of losers or not even getting into trades that are low quality or low conviction trades is a huge thing for traders to learn, especially early on.
Yeah, that's the judging the quality of the trade. What you said really resonates at the end there about I'll take the best of the available trades. When you're right, when your available inventory may not be good at all, you could be, the best of a bad bunch is still perhaps a bad trade, right? That's
correct. And what happens is when people are kind of jonesing to trade, I mean, traders like to trade. It makes you feel good. So what happens for people is almost unconsciously you kind of delude yourself into justifying or rationalizing, like you said, Peter, of like, well, let me take the best of the group, while somewhat ignoring the fact that the quality of the group of trades in front of you is not very high quality at all, and not are trades that you would generally look to take under normal conditions when there's a wide spectrum of trades that you're seeing. So boredom can do that for people. We all do a lot of behave in certain ways when we're bored. That is not necessarily the most positive and constructive, trading or not trading.
That's true.
I mean, for instance, like people can often identify that they could be bored and they eat, right? They're not particularly hungry, but what the heck, like that bowl of ice cream or that bowl of cereal or whatever it is that people often find themselves eating out of boredom, because it does fulfill a very brief kind of a need and satisfaction, but it is very short-lived. Same thing with a trade. You may be kind of jonesing to trade, get into a trade or two, you feel better for the moment because now you've traded, but then you're kind of very upset with yourself because you see the quality of the trade is not really of high conviction, and therefore increases the likelihood of it becoming a loser.
True indeed. Now, Mo was asked another question, but we seem to be on a theme here today, so you may not have a different answer, but I'll read it out.
Okay,
anyways.
shoot.
Mo is saying, sometimes I have a great trade idea that I want to take, but for some reason, I balk. I decide not to take it. Next thing you know, the trade works out, and this triggers a habit I have of jumping into premature trades, which end up losing. So any advice on how do I manage my emotions after I've missed that opportunity, so that I don't go taking bad trades?
Yeah. So the first thing is usually there's that usually is caused by some sense of anxiety or a lack of confidence. It's a little bit like you're planning on diving off the diving board. You climb up the ladder, or you walk out to the end of the diving board, and now you're about to look over into the water with all intentions of diving in, and it's like, maybe I have to prepare a little more, and you turn around and then walk back down and don't act on it. So I think you have to recognize that sometimes as you get closer to jumping into a trade, the emotional component kicks in a little more. So this is where the pre-trading day mental routine and reminders, like to not be guided by the fear in those moments, that your anxiety and uncertainty will increase because you're not going to know the outcome of the trade. So sometimes in the moment, it's easier not to take the trade. Why? Because you're not going to have to face the possibility of a loss. I mean, that's often if you get underlying it, and people like are not confident enough to put themselves out there. The problem is when the trade then works in your favor without you being in it, then it's again like an over trading trigger, which like, let me get back in and ignore it, and it may not be a good trade. So I would suggest that if you're aware of that happening, here's a difficult but important thing. Two things can exist. You can feel a level of discomfort and anxiety, but still get in the trade. A lot of times people are looking forward to the trade. Then when the emotional component hits, they respond to the emotions, which might be anxiety or uncertainty and fear. And then they just respond to the emotion. So I think during your quiet moments, it's important to visualize or do some mental rehearsal where you kind of picture yourself experiencing the excitement about getting into the trade. And as the trade approaches or your entry point hits, also then having simultaneously experiencing the anxiety and some of the uncertainty and fear, but seeing yourself jump in, take the dive in anyway. Once you do that, then your focus is all in on the trade. It's just the action of getting in the trade that's the most difficult, because once you're in the trade, usually then your mind shifts to how do I manage this trade most effectively? So both things can exist. A lot of times people don't realize that you could want to do something and also be scared of doing something and still do it.
That is true. That's maybe public speaking for a lot of people, or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
So online, actually, there's a great question here on YouTube from that I want to put to you from Molly. Or it's not really a question. He made a statement, but I think it's interesting. He said, "I've achieved my daily trading goal in the first half hour of each of the day this week, but I feel anxious for the rest of the trading day, even though I've walked away." And there was no question in that, but I thought it was an interesting statement that I understand that, because you're worried about what you're missing, right? So, hey, you made your goal. You think I should be happy and I can go around and do things, but then you wander around the rest of the day going, oh, I wonder what's going on.
Well, there's two things. One is, let's talk the macro point of view, daily goals. I understand, especially for newer traders, the goals are important. I've had very experienced traders like put no goals on their day, their week, their month, whatever, because their view is that if there's good trades out there and they're trading well, why give up the opportunity? I do believe that when traders first start out, when you hit a goal, it is more important to kind of lock in the confidence and the P&L that builds confidence before one extends that goal. So I think there is a benefit to kind of doing that. If you're hitting it every day, then I think on a bigger picture, it might be useful at the end of the week to reassess what those daily goals are. And maybe if you're trading that well, you might want to kind of bump it up. The other thing that you may want to consider is then have a plan. If you hit those goals, have a backward, of like, how are you going to spend the rest of your day? There's other ways of being productive other than being anxious looking at the market. You may do some research, you may do some reading, you may listen to some trading podcasts like Peter and I have done. You may read articles. There's plenty of things to do to increase your market knowledge. So if you find you're just like sitting there looking at the screen and not trading, that's not really a productive use of your time. So you may want to think about other ways to fill in your time. So when you hit that point, you go right to plan B, again, which might be reading articles, reading about companies, books. There's a wide range of ways to increase your knowledge base. But I also think that if you're hitting your goal that regularly, then it's probably a reasonable thing to consider incrementally bumping up those goals, to the next tier.
I like how you sort of slipped in our podcasts in there. We'll make a marketer out
Yeah,
of you yet. That
yeah.
was good. That was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. We've talked about this in the room a lot because people ask about goals all the time, and I said, look, I generally am trading all day, so I don't really have a goal. I sort of have a nominal target that I'd like to hit, but I don't stop when I get there because I'm here open to close most days anyways. So, like you said, I don't want to rob myself of that opportunity if it presents. Today, for example, it was a great day. Microsoft presented as an opportunity, and I took advantage of that. So. I think there's tricks that you can use to help manage that on any given time frame, but your recommendation is good that you should always have that type of backup plan, right? What are the other things which you can take care of? What are the, what are you going to do when you stop trading? And it could be enhancing your skills, or it might be something completely unrelated to the market, right? You may say, hey, today, here's my my honey-do list or whatever that you want to go accomplish that'll allow you to be confident and say, hey, look, I accomplished my work objective or my trading objective for today. Now I can go do this other stuff that I've really wanted to get done.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
If I can just talk trading for a second, guys, I wanted to point something out because I was feeling very happy with myself, I've got to admit. I taken this trade. I was talking you guys through every step of my Microsoft trade earlier for everybody that was in the room. We got to a point where I put it on an automatic sort of a range order so that if it was going to go down to 182.06, that's where my partial is, and I've set a range order up at 183.35. If you remember when I talked about it, originally, I said, well, maybe I'll stop at 183.05. Which if I'd done it, I would have been stopped out right in this area here. But when I looked at the chart, I realized there was a more significant technical level when I looked back on the chart for the day where it bounced off this rough level. And at the time, I had these moving averages coming into the 183.30 area. So that's why I put my stop at the 183.35. Right now, I'm feeling pretty happy with that because as you can see, the price action brought me right back up and then down here again. So I'm taking advantage of, right now being at the lows of the day. And I should be able to get out of this trade with a much better profit on my last few shares than I would have had I left my stop just over 183 up over here. So anyways, just thought I'd mention that. So we're still in this. I have not taken an active trade while we've been live on YouTube, but I said I got into this originally. 183.77 was my entry. I saw this opportunity up here, was able to take the short and been riding it ever since. So anyways, that's it for active trades here. eBay, people are talking about. eBay's flushing. Let's take a look. Yeah, eBay's been a weird one today. If I look at the chart for the day, I actually traded at pre-market, got the opportunity to rise up. I know in the room, Andrew and some others took this short, which was a great short in here, but I missed that. Then it did nothing. I mean, this is what I'm used to eBay, right? Sort of just chopping around doing nothing. It looks like it's it's had slightly larger moves here, but compared to the action for this morning, it's still been pretty tame. If you look at actually, I take that back. The range here, this is almost $1 range. It's more than I normally expect out of eBay. So maybe I'm wrong.
Bouncing a bit.
Yeah, it is bouncing a bit. So we'll
It's
see what
rated a
happens.
prior level support.
I think with 5 minutes left, I'm going to tighten up my stop once again on Microsoft. If this thing goes, I can see we've now got a 183, so I'm back to that level. We know what Microsoft can do going into the close. It likes to sort of jump around here, so I think I'll just take it. If it goes over 182.86. I'm just going to take it off right here. I might as well. But if it starts to drop, that way I can take advantage of it. So I'll just watch it here. I may be stopped out momentarily. But at least I get 90 cents on that last partial. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, that was a nice trade.
Yeah, it worked out quite well, actually. Again, completely inadvertently Microsoft into the close once again, but as I told everybody, I was trading it just because it's a proxy for the SPY and it tends to move along with it, so that's why. Let's see, we got some other questions here.
Okay.
Let's see, do we? We got some statements. You guys have any more questions? Papo. Long question here. Ooh, that's an interesting. I'm not sure how you answer that question. Papo's question is, I think the beginners always put the cart before the horse. So they're trying to win rather than learning to do well, or thinking about profits instead of risk. There's also other aspects such as state of mind or themes inherited from a past life that might affect some people more than others. In your experience, Dr. Katz, people who reverse the gains in a day, he says specifically after 15 winners, I think that might be a personal number, but anyways, who reverse the gains in a day, manage to excel. How do they do it?
I'm sorry, the end of that question was the people who reverse their gains from the day. Like, why does that happen?
Well,
You're up a lot and then you lose it all?
I'm trying to interpret the question while I'm reading it. So people who reverse the gains in the day manage to excel.
Why do they do that?
I'm not sure, honestly. Peppo, maybe you can reword that, because you're saying if they are successful, they manage to excel at trading despite reversing the gains. But if you're reversing the gains, that doesn't sound like excelling to me. So I think I'm missing something in the
and if you're reversing the gains, usually what happens often with people is that if you've had a really good day, sometimes it's kind of alluding to what I said, back to what I said before. Sometimes there's a lot of overconfidence. You're doing so well, the very kind of disciplined process that you may have been adhering to for much of the day, all of a sudden, you're kind of getting, as they say, you're smelling yourself a little much and you're getting a little full of yourself, and you might get a little loose with your discipline and your process, and therefore start getting into lower quality trades, thus kind of reversing your winners into losers. So this is why, it's nice to feel good about ourselves when we're doing well. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is why discipline is one of the key factors for success over a long time with trading, because you have to have a disciplined process that you come back to all the time. And not that it can't shift a little bit, but it is something you come back to through thick or thin. Actually, it's particularly important when things are not going well, so that you can come back to something that's a little more stable and organized than that you're doing, that could give you a sense of groundedness. So a lot of times, yes, I think, as he said, traders early on focus too much on the P&L, on the dollars, and judge things there, where really setting yourself up to kind of have a more disciplined, ongoing process and finding one that works for you, that fits your personality and style, is going to be the key really for long-term success.
Complete aside here, I've always wondered, in the expression, I stuck with them through thick and thin. Are the good times the thick ones or the thin ones? I've never figured that out. What's good and what's bad?
The good times are usually in that thing, I think, considered the thick ones. I don't know if that is I haven't been a meat eater since 1980, but I don't know if that's a steak reference. So people would like their thick steak as opposed to their kind of shoe leather thin steak. I don't know what it goes back to.
Okay.
A lot of these expressions, actually, that's a pretty interesting thing. If you actually look at expressions that we all use, I remember I once went and saw a list of the origins of them, and they're quite fascinating.
Yeah, the etymology of these are often, quite interesting. Anyway, it's complete aside. I just, I've always wondered about that. Anyway,
okay, fair enough. Right. I'm not sure.
TK Green is asking, how do you get rid of the nervousness and stay calm while trading? Most of the time, all my game plan goes to the side, and I'm just watching. You watch Peter, and he's amazingly calm. Let me first.
What I would say is,
Dr. If I could beforehand, let me first say, guys, any calm that you perceive is maybe an affected, maybe experience. I am more like as we like to say, I'm all duck. So let me bring this up here. I'm all duck, right? Calm on the surface, but I'm paddling like hell underneath. So, anyways, so that's me, Dr. Katz.
Well, listen, I think we're all wired differently. Some of us are a little more high-strung, a little more intense. So part of it is kind of knowing yourself. If you're finding that you're feeling that kind of level of nervousness, I would really suggest starting to look into kind of incorporating several times a day, but clearly in the evening and before the trading day, kind of looking into some relaxation exercises, some deep breathing, maybe even some meditation, some general exercise, some general ongoing day-to-day things that you could do to bring a little more calm and peacefulness and mindfulness for yourself. One of the things that is very good about some of these relaxation exercises, and we don't really have time to get into too much here, but it's very easy to look up, is that if you practice them, and I've taught people these relaxation exercises, it doesn't, in the beginning, it takes a few minutes to kind of practice them a little longer. But if you use them regularly, people can, like, within 15 to 20 seconds kind of just do a quick, immediate relaxation and get themselves in a better space. So I would suggest that you start trying to incorporate some form of meditation, relaxation exercises, and exercise in general to kind of just calm yourself. Practice those in the evening or after the trading day, maybe before the trading day starts. And even if you find that some of those emotions are getting the best of you during the day, take a quick break from the screen and just kind of, sit off the side or lay down for a minute and do a little relaxation to kind of ease the nerves and the tension and the anxiety to get you better mindset to get back to trading.
Makes sense to me. We've got interesting Kaizen, interesting statement here. I don't know if Dr. Katz, you've got time for maybe one last one.
Sure.
The market has closed.
Sure.
So we're done. I'm out of Microsoft, by the way, guys. So thank you for those that were reminding me, as I have a bad habit of forgetting to close my trades before the end of the day. So appreciate the help in that. But we're all good. My stop hit in this case, since I'd moved it right before the close. So we're all good. I'm not sure that this sounds almost like a technical question more than a psychological one, but we'll read it out and we'll see where we go.
Well,
Kaizen's asking, I'm currently struggling with creating a playbook. I have no idea what strategy to focus on or to build off of. Do I focus many and sample, or focus on one and see how it goes? Also, I'm having issues journaling because I can't label my trades or categorize them in a strategy. So seems like a very technical question rather than a psychological.
But let me answer it. Let me answer just in a general way. First, and the technical aspect is not my area of expertise, but this is what I will say. I think it's always good just to, on the big versus small, to start small and become competent in small numbers of setups and trade, and build some confidence there. But this is where the BBT community can be very helpful, because if you can find a mentor or other traders who have a little more experience, who might be able to make some suggestions here and kind of guide you or mentor you in this kind of situation, they can kind of help you out with that. A lot of people have been through this and kind of been found out their own way through trial and error and also guidance. So I would really encourage you to reach out to other people, see if somebody would be willing to kind of take you on, to mentor you a little, and at least offer a bunch of suggestions as to how you may start this process, because I think your question is an excellent one. And there's, I'm sure, a lot of people out there in the community who might be willing to give you a bunch of suggestions that might be helpful in terms of getting you off the ground with that.
Right. Kaizen, maybe some very specific recommendations I can make to you right here. You say when you journal, you don't know how to categorize them because or put them in a strategy. So I would suggest the first thing you want to look at is definitely go back and look at your trades and try and do it critically. Pretend you didn't take them. Pretend you're looking at someone else's trade. And you want to find, I guess what you're looking for is, why did you take the trade? Are there any common characteristics? Maybe you don't think you have a strategy, but there's something you've developed where there's a common set of characteristics. If you can't find that set of common characteristics, then you may be just throwing darts. And if you are, then I would suggest that that's a problem, because in the long run, that's usually a way to bleed your account rather than add to it. Because how do you know if you're doing well against that strategy or environment? If you're just taking a trade that feels good, hey, you may end up being a very intuitive trader and it works for you. If so, you're sort of the one in a million, right? But for most of us, we need some sort of strategy where you can say, I know when this happens, I should be taking this type of action. And it's usually just not one thing, right? When this series of things occur, then I've got a good probability of the following to occur, and therefore I know what to do. I know how to take a trade. That's really what a playbook is meant to enable. So I would say first, look at your trades and say, is there any commonality that you can find in them? Or is there anything that you want to be trading off as a common set of characteristics. Create your first strategy off of that, then go and see if you can actually identify that real time. That's your first challenge. And if you pass that mark, then there's another, a whole set of other steps that actually are described in our training material and out there you can follow. But think about that, I guess, as you're going through your journal and as you're going through it tonight and into the future.
Right.
Okay. Well, Dr. Katz, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, and everybody. Hope you have a good day.
All right, sir. Take care. Have a good one. For everybody on YouTube, thanks so much for joining us. If you found value in what we were talking about, always appreciate if you hit that like button. That always helps. If you wanted to join us, we always have opportunity for people to join us here in the room. And to do that, we offer you a discount if you wanted to join us for a week and just trial the room as a sort of a temporary member to see how it goes. You can join us using the code CLOSINGBELL. That's going to allow you to get a $24 discounted rate for 1 week in the room. It's good to do that so you can see if this is a place for you to trade. Like my Microsoft trade, I broadcast that. I told everybody when I was getting in. We talked about the trade all the way through. That's the type of stuff we do all day. So it's good to see those trades and be able to trade with other like-minded people out there. If you wanted to join us full-time, we offer a discount off of our lifetime membership. So you can use a 40% code podcast to get 40% off of our one-time membership cost. So if that's of interest to you, then we'd love to see you in the room as a lifetime member. All right, guys. With that, let me just do a couple of last checks here, see what's going on out there and where there might be some opportunity into the close. What do we have reporting after the close here? Work is reporting in about 8 minutes. RH, sometimes we watch. DocuSign, again, occasionally we watch. Westport, Yext. ZUMZ. That's coming up any moment. Yeah, I think the only big one we've been watching Work for a while now, so I'll be interested to see what happens with Work when they report in a couple of minutes. It's eagerly anticipated here that Work is going to exceed their numbers and up their forecast. We've seen companies in the same space as Work, even if they beat their quarterly numbers but do not increase their forecast, they've been punished. And you can see that in things like CLDR and others that were, didn't have quite the results people were looking for. They beat their estimates, but their outlook was disappointing. SMAR is another one in the same space that had a similar result today, down 23% on the day in that case. So let's keep an eyeball here on Work for the next couple of minutes. See what happens. And Friday, we don't have much reporting Friday. Tiffany & Co. is reporting. That'll be interesting because they were moving the other day. I wonder what Tiffany, I didn't look at it all day, with rumors that acquisition was off. They didn't do too bad. They ended up pretty much break even today. You can see their price action, pretty choppy. Didn't do much today. On the daily chart, you can see this big drop a couple of days ago when the news hit that acquisition by Louis Vuitton wasn't going to go through. But it looks like they've stabilized. We'll see what tomorrow brings as they report, I assume, before they open. Yeah, RH, you're right. Restoration Hardware, or I think they're just called RH now. It does move a lot, Zen, but I find it really hard to trade. The spread can be really big. It's actually a relatively low float stock too, right? It fools you because it's a $250 stock. But if you actually look at the float on it, it's only about 17 million shares. So you got to be careful with Restoration Hardware or RH Corp. So AJM, I check my earnings. I like to do it on earnings. I use the Earnings Whispers site. I'll actually post a link here for you. So AJ, you're welcome to do that. It's a free service where I find out what's happening, and then the news, I look for it to happen here in Benzinga News. ZUMZ, they're not going to give Q2 guidance. See, they're trying to avoid the issues. They're just saying, we're not giving you any guidance. So they're not going to lead the market one way or the other. RH, RH actually beat their numbers. Their earnings $1.27 versus an estimate of 81 cents. That's a considerable beat. So that's interesting. While the sales were just up by about 2 million, 482 million versus 480. So we got a little bit of a beat there. ZUMZ. Let's see what it's up to here. Yeah, not a lot of volume. Look at this. Nothing going on. Big jump up, but then nothing. So they had a bigger, their earnings per share was, they lost twice as much money as expected, and their sales were lower. So that's so surprising. But it's not a big, it traded less than 1 million shares today. So again, not something I'm going to spend any more time on. All right, looks like work is out. Work, so here we go. This might be another case. So work beat. So guys, work beat their sales estimate. They delivered 201 million worth of sales versus 187 million estimate. And their earnings per share, they're expected to lose 6 cents and they only lost 2 cents. So that's good. So you might ask yourself, why is it dropping down here? I'm waiting. I don't see yet the information on their forward guidance, and I'm willing to bet it's the guidance. On YouTube, hello, Muhammad. It's overvalued. Well, Matt, there is that. We've been talking about that. I mean, if you look at the daily here, look at how work has really been moving up here. So yeah, it's let's see, and it's heading back up to the IPO area where it originally released. Not a lot of history on work. So there's no question it's overvalued. However, I mean, mere minutes ago, the market's consensus was the value of this company was $38. Now it's down at 34. So something's changed, right? And I can presume it's not, they seem to have beat the estimate, so that's not it. So I'm definitely going to put this on my list. Let me put it on my list right now, in fact, for Friday, June, what are we, the 5th tomorrow? Top of my list here, work. They beat the estimates, and I'll be waiting to see what we hear on their forward guidance. I've got to believe that's it. 12,000 net new paid customers, 90,000 new organizations have signed up for free or subscription services. All that sounds good. So Q2, interesting. So I think here's the guidance, right, as expected. So even their Q2 guidance, so they just finished their first quarter. Their second quarter, they're actually predicting slightly better than estimates. So the street estimate so far for Q2 is that they're going to lose 6 cents. They're saying they're going to lose 3 to 4 cents. And their sales was estimated just under 200 million. They're saying they're going to make over 200 million. However, if you look at their full year FY21 guidance, work is actually below the estimates. The estimate was for a loss of 20 cents. They say basically it'll be 20 cents, 19 to 17 cents, so right in that market. But the estimate for sales is 860 million, and they're estimating 855 to 870 million. So they're sort of hedging their bet and putting their full year right around that guidance, which I find interesting. The market is punishing them for that because they were expecting, I guess, them to come out above those estimate numbers for the year. So essentially what that's telling you is the great sales they're seeing now, they're not really expecting to continue to build on that for the rest of the year. It will sort of stagnate at some point. So that's what it tells me anyways, which is why we're seeing this $5 drop in work. Anybody out there trading work? A little risky now, but it's certainly been a drop here. You scalped it? Oh, well done, Mac. No worries, Bill. It's a good link. Glad you can use it. Sandmew78, you're asking, is the room something for a swing trader newbie? We don't do a lot of swing trading through the day, but there is swing trading available. In fact, you can sign up for Brian provides a free swing trading news alert, and you can sign that up for that on our website. Just go to our website, look under swing trading, and you will see it there. Sign up right at the bottom. We don't send you a ton of marketing, I promise. It really is just go under trading and then swing trading, and there's you can sign up, as I said, right at the bottom there, and really you'll just get a couple of emails a week from Brian. He announces his trades, and then he does a weekly recap and a midweek recap. So a few emails, but it's all directly related to swing trading. It is not marketing, promise. So there. Pilotfish, thanks for being here. Have a great day. Lexi, appreciate that you like that Swing Trade Journal. That's good. All right, guys. Well, work is, it looks like it's sort of bottoming here. It's maybe finding a level. We'll see if it bounces back. I didn't take it. I was busy blabbing away. But it's all right. I had my trade pre-market on eBay and my trade into the close on Microsoft. I bracketed the day with some winners. Very happy with that. Had a fantastic trade in the middle of that on MU. And despite missing the amazing action that happened on American Airlines, where did it end the day, by the way? American Airlines ended at 1680 or so. So still a great, great day for American Airlines. So it will be interesting to see what that does tomorrow morning. So with that, I will sign off on YouTube. I'll be back to everybody in the room in just a minute here. Thanks so much for joining us.